Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while since the last episode, and I intend to keep it this way. I'll release a conversation whenever I really want to have one. Today is one such conversation. It's with Naveen. Naveen is currently based in Auroville, a very interesting place near Pondicherry in India, where he's doing his life's work. We talk about his journey in getting to this point, doing the work that he's called to do. We'll learn more about the work. Throughout this conversation, you'll hear Mahabharata, the Indian epic, and some references from Mahabharata. You would be able to follow along the conversation even without any prior knowledge. But if you'd like to go deeper, you can refer to the show notes. I have added some information and some links for you to continue to go deeper into the conversation with us. Enjoy the conversation. Naveen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Susmeet. Happy to be here.
So, we just completed a workshop and it was titled The Mahabharata Within. And this was my first introduction to Mahabharata in the way that you did it. I feel indebted to the amount of work that our traditions have done for us and handed us over something like this. And the fact that you've spent so much of your life studying this and then you are giving it to us. I am really thankful that I stumbled upon this. And because I'm so curious now about your journey, how how did you get to this point where you have started doing these workshops? So,
Thank you, Susmeet. Firstly, I just want to say it was a pleasure to have met you and others at the workshop. As for my own journey, I wonder where to start. It's a rather uh, long, it's been a long road so far. But maybe I can go back to sometime in college, I think, where I was studying engineering and questions emerged around what to do with my life. And do I go for a master's degree in, and if so, in what direction, in what, is it, would I continue to be in technology? Would it be policy making? And so basically questions about the next steps of life started emerging. And I also wanted it to be meaningful. I wanted to be successful, but I also wanted to do it in a way that is useful and meaningful for larger society as well. I wanted to contribute to society as well. So what would a career like that look like, where one can be successful and yet give back to society? So that is really, in a sense, one of the questions that drove me. And then one thing led to another, and uh, questions about technology, the nature of development, ecology, loss of traditional knowledge. All of that started entering my awareness because I did not know much about these things back then, which really shook my worldview, which was largely rather narrow, I would say, until that point. So I became more aware of issues around, larger issues that impact our lives. And so my trajectory changed rather dramatically after a point, and I worked as an environmental engineer because I didn't want to go to graduate school to study conventional development. By then, from technology, I had wanted to get into policy making, but from policy making, I realized, wait, our idea of development itself might be rather destructive. So I wanted to take some time off and understand society and society better. Initially, to start with, but then it then led to questions around the self. And so that started off, in a sense, a spiritual kind of search. And these two put together, uh, the questions around the self and meaningful action in the collective had really changed my trajectory quite dramatically. And uh, to put it mildly. Yeah. So here am I about 20 odd years later. Uh, this is where it's brought me. Yeah. Well, so I don't know if it answers your question, but this is, in a sense, the a broad trajectory of the journey.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, this adds up. So your first-hand experience in finding a path for yourself. So that curious college kid who wants to do good for himself and also contribute to the society. So you've explored policy making, development, environmental uh, engineering, and things like these. The first-hand experience of being in these worlds.
Yeah, no, I did not explore policymaking. I was going to study policymaking as a part of my master's.
You considered it.
I was considering it very, very actively. And what is a way to contribute to society? So, at various points of time, the answers have changed from technology, discovering new gadgets or technology, to actually coming up with new policies, coming up with new regulations, to education. To so it's kept changing. But I have considered many possibilities for a career. Before moving on from those, as my own search deepened, now it's around working with people and discovering their own inner worlds, and what does it mean to bring about inner change that can contribute to outer change, societal transformation. But when I started off on this journey, I had no idea that this is where I land up. And I have no idea the journey is not over. So we have no idea, in a decade or two, where I might be. But I have been in this place for a long time now, and I do feel quite stable and settled where my answers have brought me, where the questions have brought me, where my answers have brought me. Yeah.
Wow. I resonate with this journey quite a bit. And you've come to working with yourself and then working with other people's inner selves. And that is the most foundational impact on someone's life and even society's life. And this is the work that you feel called to do. This is the work that just happens through you. And
Indeed. Yeah. That's what I'm called to do. And it's a work in progress. It's not that one can ever say my work with myself is complete. In fact, the more we discover ourselves, it feels like there is more to the process of discovery and to the process of growth. So I would at best say I'm scratching at the surface still. And whatever little I enable of others is still only scratching at the surface. So there's a long way to go, and we're barely starting.
I'm still curious about how did you stumble upon the Mahabharata? And did you also come across other stories, myths, scriptures from a tradition? And what attracted you to it? How did you start going deeper into it? And I would like to know a little bit of that journey.
So, sure. I mean, firstly, I'm surprised that my life even brought me here, because 20 years ago, I would have no idea. In fact, I was a very rational, uh, logical kind of person. I was not very interested in stories. I didn't take stories too seriously. I thought they were a waste of time. Even if I only read nonfiction largely. Fiction was so myth and stories were not something I would have ever imagined would be my one of my main areas of work. Uh, I've always had an interest in psychology, but I never saw the connection between psychology and stories and our own inner world and spirituality. So I'm kind of amused by where I seem to have landed, because I remember being utterly bored by storytelling, and there were friends of mine who used to do storytelling. I was thinking, what a waste of time. What are these people up to? How is this going to be of any benefit to the world? Things like that. So I remember being quite judgmental of some of this stuff. So it feels like life has had the last laugh in bringing me here. Yeah, but that said, what fascinates me about the Mahabharata, of course, as growing up as children, I was quite fascinated with the Mahabharata. I was quite young when the Ramayana was playing on TV. So I don't have too clear memories of that. But Mahabharata was a big thing as I was growing up because every Sunday morning it would come on TV, and then we would all eagerly wait to watch it. And then us kids in the neighborhood would all then make our own bows and arrows and, keep shooting at each other, playing games based on the Mahabharata. And so it's had definitely some kind of a foundational impact. Not that one was very conscious of it, but the Mahabharata was definitely something that impacted me at a very young age. When I was, say, between 5 or 6 years till about 10, 11. But that said, what much later on in life, what really brought me to this is I discovered the inner Mahabharata, so to speak. I was in a place in life where I had gotten quite stuck uh, with what next in my life, because I'd come to a point where um, oh, working only on social change didn't make sense without looking at inner transformation. But a lot of my activist friends or people working in social entrepreneurship and areas like that, they weren't really interested in spirituality much. While they were looking at outer change in a sense. Uh, while a lot of my friends who are interested in spirituality didn't seem to be too interested in collective transformation, social transformation. They felt all that was not necessary to really engage with. So I got stuck between these two positions because I saw that we need both. We need inner transformation as well, and we need collective transformation as well. And one actually, they both contribute to each other, and it's not holistic to look at only one. But uh, I, I there weren't enough friends who saw things the same way. So I got stuck in a way of what to do next, how to go forward, what to do with my life. Because it's easier to be in a group and work, but if you are alone in your perspectives, then what does one do with that? And I also felt that, am I getting it wrong? So I was a bit of a self doubt. I was kind of not sure if I am missing something that they are actually able to see. Am I? So I was a little confused. While I had my convictions, I was also confused. I was a bit lost. I was not sure what my next steps were. Sometimes my clarity was there, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I got stuck in life for about 3 years or so, absolutely not knowing what the next steps are and feeling somewhat lonely in this journey. And at that point, um, uh, I used to feel a lot like Abhimanyu in the Chakravyuh. I have entered it, but I don't know how to get out of it. And the longer I stayed inside, I felt like, okay, I either going to find an answer out of this or I'll die trying. But somehow leaving it was never an option. I did not even know what it meant to leave the Chakravyuh. So I think the vision of Abhimanyu used to come up a lot, as I was stuck in this situation. And I never took it too seriously, but I know that at that point, the resonance with Abhimanyu is quite high, you know. And then later on in life, when I did discover mentors, and especially Raghu, who works with the Mahabharata, you know, uh, primarily, and through a lot of the processes that he enabled us to go through. Um, and Mahabharata is a very strong uh, inspiration for him, and that's something that we all work with. I could see that at some point, and it spoke to me a lot. So a lot of what I'm presenting today is something that I have discovered myself as a participant sitting on the other side. So and it really helped me find answers for myself, find clarity for myself, find my own next steps, and slowly a certain sense of bleakness that I was carrying in life started transforming, and I started finding more insights, more joy, more happiness, more purpose, more direction, definitely more clarity after that period of not knowing where to go for about 3 years. So this spoke to me and this helped me first. And that's why I'm wanting to share it to others, because the joy and the inspiration and the benefits that I've received from this, may I be able to share it to others, So that's been the reason behind doing these explorations, these workshops. Uh, and over time, I notice I don't feel like the Abhimanyu anymore. Maybe more like the Arjuna, or So I noticed, oh wow, there's been some change in my own inner images, inner stories that I seem to be carrying. So uh, this gave me a very clear um, insight, I can say, into uh, into myself, and I learned a lot from it, and I benefited a lot from it, and that brought in a lot of respect for the Mahabharata for me. You started this podcast with uh, being saying that you're very impressed with what our forefathers and mothers, grandfathers and grandmothers have have passed on to us. Um, I was left with a similar sense of awe in the depth that exists in our culture, but how little we seem to be aware of it. Uh, so, uh, so I felt that it's important that I become a student of this, and whatever little I'm able to discover, I share it with others also. The joy that I have received, and the gifts and the nectar that I've received from this, and the 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 milk that I've received from this for my growth, may others also receive. So that's the spirit in which I'm trying to share it. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, this has had such an impact on me, especially on the last day when we were able to see it all coming together. And the role of Karna, who's also within us, and how when the time comes, he's almost willingly giving himself up. He takes off that armor. It was very touching to me. And I was even questioning, is it our interpretation that makes it this? But it was just so consistent that it is not just our interpretation. It has to be well thought of. They had so much depth. And perhaps the generations have continued to work on it to get it to the point where it is. And it has existed. We watched this documentary about this being played in villages of Tamil Nadu for thousands of years. And and as you said, you grew up with this. You were playing, you're watching some of it. So maybe it does have some subconscious impact on us, even if we do not understand, we do not have the intellectual ability to decipher all of this, even if the masses do not have it, but they are drawn to it. And those of us who live in our heads, we question them. Those who don't, who are able to surrender to this. And I think this brings so much wealth, so much stability to our life. And we're grateful that you're here. And
Absolutely. I fully agree with you there. Uh, yeah, the depth that it has is staggering. And I do feel that you know, this has been added to by, a lot of human minds um, over the years, over the centuries. I'm not sure, but it feels like it's breathtaking to imagine. Is it one person's work, or is it a work? Is it the work of the best of what our land has to offer? So the best people, so the best communities, people. Is it been added to over centuries, over the millennia? It feels like it's a river that that has been contributed to by many great souls. And I do think, like you said, it has a very powerful subconscious pull. And more than anything, the Mahabharata is happening inside us all the time. So we can't really run away from it too much because it's happening inside us so much, all the, so powerfully unfolding inside us. When we see it outside, it's natural that we'll feel drawn to it. So it's actually the other way around. It is happening whether the outer Mahabharata exists in our realm or not. I mean, in our awareness, the inner Mahabharata is always happening. And so when we see bits of it outside or we see it outside, then naturally there is a pull. So many times people have come to me in these workshops and said, and when I ask you, the opening circle, what brings you here? Many, many people have just said the name alone. I don't know what happens in this place, just the name alone had this pull that brought me here. So somewhere people are aware that this is happening inside. And when it's also reflected outside, then if they are also dealing with powerful questions, and they're going through quite an intense search themselves, then it's only natural that they will feel drawn to what exists, outside. I hope it just makes sense. Yeah.
That is such a profound thing to say. You've said it a few times, but every time I understand it a little more. And so we are out there solving our problems in the world, and problems usually are people problems more than anything else. And we are after this Mahabharata that's happening outside, as you say. You're trying to fight the battles outside. But it's really the fact that we are drawn to those battles, those people, those settings, is that all of this is happening within us. We haven't resolved the inner Mahabharata.
Yeah.
And the same thing is what we get drawn to outside.
Yeah. Life is a mirror constantly. And there's a difference that I have, a slight difference with how you see it. All problems seemingly are people problems or outside problems, but eventually they are uh, personal problems.
Yeah.
It is eventually the switch is inside and the transformation, and I can't change other people, but can I look at changing myself and then respond to them from my own inner location?
Yes.
So this is easy to forget, and I keep forgetting this a lot. But primarily, what I'd like to go back to is all problems, in a sense, quote unquote problems, are a reflection of what within me do I need to transform. I'm not saying those columns are not to be dealt with in the outer realm, but from where am I approaching them? Am I approaching them from a reactive space, or am I truly responding to them? Which is definitely not a reactive space. So that, in a sense, is, I think, also what the Mahabharata invites us into. Are we going to approach our life from a reactive location, like the Kauravas do? Or are we going to discover a non-reactive, deep anchored uh, space of response, like the Pandavas eventually managed to discover?
Wow. So, as much as I can keep diving into this, we have been doing that for the last 6 days. I'm also intrigued about how did you arrive at the format in which you currently operate, and you learned something from your mentor Raghu, and I'm sure the format has evolved since then. You have brought in your own flavors. I would like to know about this journey of your current life's work as you see it.
It was just a 1 day workshop initially. Then it became 2 days, then it became 3 days. It slowly just grew, but now it's 6 days. But that said, um, uh, I just uh, try to see, how is it that I can offer it with as much authenticity as I can, and that in a sense makes the process hopefully new and fresh. Yeah. But the format or itself, there's nothing that I have contributed or anything new. You know, I've just uh, I've just strung pearls together that I've received from my teachers, and um, And it might grow again. This is a, like, from how it grew from 1 day to 6 days, it might grow to beyond this also. We'll see, but I do feel complete at this point with where it is. And, we'll see how to play with this further. But it's been a process of play, this growth from 1 day to where it is, this format as we're talking, has been not something that I've consciously sat and uh, strategized. It's just been, okay, let's add this to see how it works. Let's add. So it's been a process of play and experimentation, and if it felt right, then I kind of kept it, which means the program grew in size, and in duration. So I've enjoyed that process of experimenting and playing with it to where it's gotten to. Yeah. As for my life's work, the second question, if I understand you right, uh, that's a longer kind of contemplation. Well, where I have gotten is what I'd like to call evolutionary leadership. Um, I've recently started a center for evolutionary leadership in Auroville, and we call it Aram. That's uh, what I feel could be my life's work now, going forward, at least for the foreseeable future. We don't know how long, but um, what I see is that we as a species are at a very dangerous moment in our collective history. Yeah, our technology, our capacities, I think, has grown so much that we could potentially self-destruct ourselves. Yeah, and there are multiple crises that are converging, and we're staring at what is generally called the meta crisis or the poly crisis, where multiple crises are converging, whether it be the ecological crisis, whether it be the economic inequity. We're potentially already, in the middle of World War III.
Yeah.
Who knows? But the way conflicts are erupting around the world, and how close we are, to a nuclear catastrophe, it's not. I mean, it's scary, right? And there are many more. The health crisis, the mental health crisis. You know, the kind of cancers and heart disease that are exploding. So you name it, a pandemic we just seen, God forbid another major pandemic with a more virulent virus, so we're sitting at the convergence of multiple crises coming together, and it feels like an avalanche. And uh, I at this rate, I don't know if we will last another 100 years as a species. I don't think we'll definitely last another 100 years as a civilization, modern civilization. Human beings might still be around in 100 years, but at this way of life where we're heavily extracting from the earth and exploiting each other on the earth, this way of life, I don't see it surviving another 100 years. Maybe even 100 years is a very optimistic estimate. So um, we are potentially at the edge of self destruction. And unfortunately, it's not just us. We are already destroying thousands, if not millions, of species on a on a yearly basis. You know, and that is rather very unfortunate. So I think what has brought us here to this point is a narrow understanding of what leadership is, and the leadership that has brought us this far. I don't think is going to take us too far, or I don't think it's going to help us navigate our current crisis. So we need new leadership, a new understanding and practice. So a new praxis of leadership that can then help us navigate out of this meta crisis that we have, in a sense, collectively brought upon ourselves. So what is this evolutionary leadership? I'm calling this new leadership evolution leadership. So what does this evolutionary leadership mean? What are its principles? What are its practices? How could we go about embodying it more? How could we go about deepening it more, in society? So these are the questions that I am driven by now. Yeah, and I would say I'm very much at a very rudimentary stage of these questions, but I do feel we need new leadership. And like I said, I'm calling that evolutionary leadership. And we need leaders uh, who can really embody that. And and I feel uh, a lot of knowledge around this is still emergent. It is still emerging. So we need a lot of applied research on this, where we are applying it not just theoretically, but using our own lives, applying it in our own lives and embodying it really. So that's where I think my life is taking me. And the Mahabharata is absolutely central to this. You know, for me, the Mahabharata is a story, a myth. Uh, when I say myth, I mean it from the Greek meaning of it around mythos. I'm not talking about it from the popular English meaning of falsehood. Mahabharata is anything but falsehood. It is more real than the stories we tell about ourselves. You know, so I'm coming from it from a Greek sort of perspective, which is where what they understood as mythos. The deeply archetypal realm in which our lives also unfold. Our life is a play of the archetypes, and uh, so uh, so the Mahabharata is more real than anything else we can imagine about our life. Uh, so that said, the Mahabharata to me is an evolutionary myth, and to me it is absolutely the story of evolutionary leadership. And so there is a lot of inspiration and learning that we can draw from the Mahabharata. So it feels absolutely aligned with uh, the evolutionary journey that we need to go through, and it seems to be absolutely tailor made for something like this. So to me, it feels like life has given us a profound gift, that we're barely beginning to discover. So along with the Mahabharata, if you see it along with the Yoga Sutras, you know, these two to me are a very potent combination. And technically, just these two alone, is enough to help humanity navigate our current crisis. I'm not saying we should not learn from any other sources, but just the Yoga Sutras and the Mahabharata alone, if we put together, to me feels like such a solid uh, offering that our land has given us. That just these two, you know, uh, alone is enough to really turn around our lives and discover deep meaning and purpose. And of course, but we live in a land of riches, and I'm not saying these are the only two books or the texts of it. These are more than texts, inspirations we should learn from. All I'm saying is just these two are enough. While we sit on treasure chests, multiple, we sit on a palace full of riches, So we're very spoilt that way. But unfortunately, we're not drawing enough from all the riches we've been offered.
Wow. We have talked a little bit about this earlier as well during the workshop, but the way you mentioned it right now, that the major crisis we are sitting on today, it's not acknowledging it would be being ignorant or rather foolish. Uh, and and acknowledging it seems very tough as well because as a young person with limited agency, you feel a little bit helpless. You feel a little less hopeful. Um, and I've also wrestled with this. This is something that Vipul had also beautifully shared on the podcast, and he shares otherwise, which is to surrender to the life which is much more intelligent than me and let it flow through me. And I've also had glimpses of it. I've let it flow through me, and whenever I surrender, I just go places. It it's hard to explain, and you still have that rational mind. You said you were very rational in college. You still retain it today.
To some extent, yes. I mean, old habits die hard. So, yeah.
No, yeah. it is a very I mean, I'll remember you as someone whenever I have to cut through uh, a lot of noise and apply rationality, I would probably think of you. Okay, okay, what would Naveen think in this situation? So that's a very valuable way of thinking that you bring to us, to the people that you engage with. And there's some poetry coming to me right now, some songs coming to me right now, because of the place I am in my personal life. Wonderful. And so it is not taking any effort. Wow. But I'm not paying attention to it. Whatever is coming to me, like okay, yeah, this is coming to me, it's fine. But then my mind tries to have other ideas and tries to pull me in other directions. And I'm trying to surrender more to what's coming to me.
Regarding the various pulls and pushes within oneself, you talked about surrender, you talked about the mind coming in and offering its own directions, trajectory, inputs. For me, the practice, easier said than done, has always just been this: can one step back
Yeah.
and really observe the various pulls and pushes within, you know, and uh, and let that intelligence that observes direct the next steps, offer the next steps, because the so-called I that we use to direct is very limited in its is very limited in its view of things, in its capacities. So why not try and discover? Why not find that location from where uh, a deeper observation is possible of the various pulls and pushes within ourselves? That is the Kurukshetra. These various pulls and pushes within ourselves is the Kurukshetra. And when I'm unconscious of it, is when I feel battered, buffeted about by life, you know. That is when I'm in the Kurukshetra, and being able to step back from that little storm and discovering uh, a certain uh, calmness, a stillness to observe. There is a certain process to it. Okay. It is not open source in one sense. It's not mix and match. It's not khichdi
Right.
in the name of yoga practice, sadhana. Sadhana has a certain sadhana has a certain process to it. There's a certain rigor to it. There's a certain logic and deep science to it. There's an art to it. Like I said, it is full spectrum. You know, uh, like I said, I'm definitely sure sadhana has a lot of the rational and the supra-rational to it. Uh, Possibly the infra-rational too. I don't feel fully qualified around that to say that's, but my gut feeling is it also has a lot of the infra-rational to it. So it's the whole spectrum. But there is a deep logic and science and also art to it, like I said. Yeah. So uh, in that sense, the Yoga Sutras, yoga, I don't know if there are many forms of yoga. Again, I'm only offering you my limited perspective on this. For me, what is generally known as, the different forms like Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, or Karma Yoga, or Hatha Yoga, for me, actually, they're all, uh, I would like to see it as Purna Yoga, integral yoga. And also the community that I come from, and I'm very inspired by Sri Aurobindo's teachings. Uh, I would like to see them all as um, part of sadhana, rather than single them out as isolated paths,
Yes.
or to follow. Uh, I think the invitation is: can we look at all of them as part of the same process of sadhana? So it becomes integral and well-rounded, uh, and it speaks to all parts of us. So, and I feel all those yogas speak to each other. They reinforce each other. you know so bhakti yoga and jnana yoga reinforce each other. And if one is grounded in both, then the seva one offers is more humble and more authentic. And if I do all of that, I have to take good care of my instrument. which, I can't afford to neglect. And, so all of these really, I feel, converge. And I think that's the spirit in which we perhaps should approach it, is my feeling. That not see them as different strands, but really see them uh, as, uh, how to weave it all together into one process of deepening and growth and empowerment.
Yes, these classifications pretty much come from the same school, and these are all very complementary. But then our land has several different schools of meditation, for example, and and you have certainly seen it a lot more than me. Mixing and matching can sometimes go wrong.
Oh yeah, it often goes wrong.
So, especially in our new agey communities where we're just almost again discovering everything. Uh, and yeah, so based on what you have learned from observing all of this, so I'm sure about whatever you just mentioned, these yogas are very complementary to each other. So should one just stick to one school of thought, one philosophical uh, way of approaching this to keep safe on the path? Because our ancestors have done so much work. I mean, they you shouldn't should probably just surrender a little bit here. Let's say if you are into vipassana meditation, for example, I think you have some opinions about that. Then you do not mix other things with it. Or let's say if you have a South American plant.
Yeah, I know that's very popular, really. Ayahuasca and this and that, cocoa ceremonies and stuff like that. Yeah, see, definitely, I'm not a fan of mixing and matching from a very superficial, distracted kind of a,
Yes.
uh, khichdi. I know it happens a lot in this new age circles, and I'm not a fan of that at all. In fact, I am positively displeased with it. Yeah. Uh, what I would say is, to do justice to any system, one is engaging with, and preferably a system, uh, an indigenous or a traditional system that has stood the test of time,
Yes.
not pick up, random stuff that's popped up recently, but really because these have stood the test of time for a reason. Many of these spiritual traditions are thousands of years old because there is deep depths to them. Yeah. I'm not talking about traditions across the world, you know. So they have sustained for a reason. So pick one with depth to it, and then do full justice to it. Once that's at least would be my way of looking at it. Once I've chosen that this is what it is, then really become a true student of that, process, more than a path, of that process, and see where that takes one, you know, rather than doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I mean, for me, all the great traditions of the world, at its heart, at their core, point to the same reality, point to the same truth. You know, I mean, truth has many names. The mountaintop has many paths, many ways to get there. But one needs to stay authentic to what one has chosen,
Yeah.
So I'm not saying one, I mean, there's only one right answer here.
I'll ask the more specific question. So I come from the Jain tradition, and I feel that leaving where I was born, completely getting away from that, uh, that is not ideal for me. That's what I found in my life so far. So I'm coming back to my family, to my culture, to my traditions, while also having this openness to keep on learning and walking my own path. So as I'm doing that, now I've come across you and I've come across this philosophy, and the yogas make complete sense to me. All I need to do is have consistency with them, practice them. So while I'm doing all of this, and I'm also participating in my society family, uh, should I not even think about going to, let's say, Vipassana meditation retreat, or can I still do it?
Oh, okay. See, I'd prefer not to be
Just a suggestion here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will.
My suggestion, would be to not really hold oneself back from experiencing uh, processes of depth
Right.
wherever they come from.
Okay.
It does not matter where they come from.
Okay.
But if these are processes of depth, then why not? Why not? Yeah. But there are some things one needs to keep in mind, according to me. Am I approaching it from a space of distraction? Am I shopping? Is it spiritual materialism where I'm shopping from here, shopping from there? Or am I really trying to go inward and discover? So really, more than the process that I'm doing, what's the spirit behind which I'm approaching it? Am I a spiritual tourist here? Or am I truly seeking? Is my question. If I'm window shopping or just going out being, spiritual tourism,
Yeah.
then whatever the depth that process might have, however, old it might be or whatever it is, I'm not going to like derive what I can. I am for learning from everywhere possible, not just here or there. But who is learning is the question. Is it the beckoner in me, who is just jumping from one thing to another but not able to build depth? Or is the seeker in me who is uh, truly integrating these experiences, this knowledge, these practices into deepening oneself? That really, I think, is the question. You know, and anything that enables a seeker, I would say, yeah, go for it. Anything that is is the is distracting the beckoner and hooking the beckoner, I would say stay away. So this could be a traditional path. It needn't be a traditional path, but really, where am I approaching these things from? Yeah.
Wow, yes, you've hit the nail on the head. And I think asking that question that you just asked me, that would take me to the right place.
Beautiful. Hopefully, yeah. And one more thing, though my own personal preference around sadhana, not that I am anywhere close to embodying it myself, but that's the direction I want to move towards in my own life. For me, sadhana has to be integral, you know, meaning it has to be the pursuit of excellence at all levels of the being.
Yes.
Yeah. Not just developing one part of me,
Yes.
but what would it mean for the full uh, integral unfolding, the full unfolding of the human being,
Yes.
evolution of the human being. So for that, one needs to keep all parts of the being, all parts of the self, in a healthy shape, and perfect the instrument in a sense.
Yes.
And it's not just the body that's the instrument. So for me, I think my preference and my invitation would be to really discover a process of integral sadhana.
Yes.
And again, there are traditions that offer it, but one can, I feel, for me, but that science and that research is still ongoing. So one can still, through our own lives, discover a deeper integral sadhana, from what has been uh, presented to us. But that requires some serious sincerity, and dedication, but uh, that would be my invitation.
Thank you so much, Naveen. Um, I'll take that invitation, and hopefully, the next time we meet, I would have at least inched forward and not backward.
Hopefully, same for all of us.
Yeah.
Before we move towards closing, something I wanted to say is I think approaching this not, approaching it from a space of humility and from a sense of a beginner's mind, I think would be very valuable.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's very easy to become arrogant, like we know it all. And it's a very, very easy trap to fall into.
Yeah.
I keep falling into it all the time myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I will fall into.
You will, yeah, I will, we all will. But that's why we probably need the right kind of friends around us who can both hold a deep humility themselves and yet honesty to show a mirror to each other, when some of us are losing sight of it. So the Sangha is very important. An authentic Sangha is very important. And I think the more we can discover that kind of sincerity within us and that authentic Sangha around us, there are greater chances of uh, of the practice of sadhana deepening, flowering is greater. The chance of it flowering is greater. So I wish that for all of us, both sincerity personally and the company of beautiful and sincere friends.
On that note, I would also like you to talk a little bit about those who got further intrigued by this conversation and would like to reach out to you or connect with Aram. Uh, what is the best way to do that?
Wow. Okay. See, I would rather them not reach out to me, but reach out to what will help them take their own journeys forward. But should they wish to, then yeah, we have a website. We have a little bit of a social media presence. Okay. Actually, I'm not too sure about that. I need to go check if you have a social media presence. We definitely have a website
I can
that I'm very clear about.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll put that in the description somewhere.
I'll do that.
Aram.life, www.aram.life.
Aram.life.
I would really like them to really ask, uh, what does it mean for them to deepen their own connection to themselves and really let life take them from there, you know. And if Aram and Auroville are options that show up for them, then yes, they're most welcome to reach out and we'll see how we can work together. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I responded that to your uh, note about Sangha. And Auroville is a wonderful place to find others who are walking the path. And so I just thought we'll mention this. A very small set of listeners right now, 50 to 100 people.
Beautiful. Probably size doesn't matter. Quality does. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Staying, I'd like to believe that they're all seekers. That's why they have stuck around to my
Yeah.
niche conversation.
Beautiful.
And
Maybe I can say this. Yeah. More than Aram and me, what they could really look up is Auroville.
yes.
Auroville, the vision of Auroville, the inspiration behind Auroville, the teachings it's based on, that of the mother and Sri Aurobindo, um, that to me is a powerful beacon of light. So I would definitely invite them to explore that. Because an Auroville is really meant to be that. It's by its very design, by its very vision, it's meant to be a community of sincere seekers who can come together and create both inner and outer transformation. So they can, I very highly, we're not a perfect community by any stretch of imagination. There is a lot that's happening currently in the community that is rather saddening. But we're all works in progress.
Yes.
And we're all plodding our way along, around spirituality and growth. So, they're welcome to join us in this adventure. So that's something I definitely strongly recommend. You can put a link to Auroville
I'll do
on the podcast. Yeah.
Yes, all the links would be in the show notes, guys. Thank you so much, Naveen. I'll probably come back to this conversation multiple times in different points in my life, and so will the listeners. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Susmeet. It's been a pleasure being a part of this conversation. And best wishes to you and all your listeners. And I hope we keep meeting again and again. There is some meaningful context. Pardon?
That's for sure.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.